Hello? Hello? Hey, guys? Is anybody here? Is this thing on? Hello? Hmm.
Hey, Dan, are you on?
Yeah, I'm here. What's up?
Awesome. Just getting Joe set up over here.
Awesome.
So it's going to be a good show because I think he's pretty excited to do it. And just got a couple little things we got to tweak here. And so
I'm excited that he'd join us. I think that's pretty great.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. So just you and
hey.
Hello?
Hey.
Dan, did you pick up a phone line?
Who is that?
Dude,
I didn't pick up the
finally
phone.
back.
Wait a minute. Is that Mark? Is that you?
Yeah, man. Where have you been? It's been like 2 weeks.
Mark?
What are you?
God, I had to go like on 32 bathroom breaks.
What the heck? I guess
never
Mark
hung up.
You never hung up.
No.
All right.
Can I hang out with you guys? Please?
Yeah, man. I'm down with that.
In Minneapolis, Minnesota, it's Arcade Radio.
Now, this won't hurt a bit.
August, like a peanut butter.
You mean pea soup?
You eat what you like, or I'll eat what I like.
Listen, if Mark is here, we need to reward this dedication, in my opinion, somehow.
So, are you saying we should make him part of the show? Or is that going too far?
I think we should at least ask him.
Mark,
when that dedicated, I feel like it's sort of like...
Mark, I'm getting down on one knee, and I just want to say, will you be our third host?
Absolutely, I'm in. This is great.
Yes.
And get up.
Okay, I actually didn't kneel. I was just sitting the whole time. Welcome to the show. This is it's a day in December. It's like the 22nd, and we're a few minutes late, so sorry to the 2 listeners in our audience. This is the holiday special, a Christmas special, as it were. And we're going to go for at least 90 minutes tonight. What do you guys think about that?
Don't want to disappoint the 2 people that have us on a timer.
So we're going to do things a little bit differently tonight. Joe Leis is in studio. Welcome to the show, Joe.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here.
We're going to do a round robin of introductions, and just so everybody gets a sort of an introduction to us, and we kind of skate over this every time. And so today I am Adam Stevens. I am Matarax on Clav, and I've been in the hobby since about 2002 when I first started to restore a Tron with actually Joe's help. We can maybe talk about that later. And so I'm going to hand it over to Dan to introduce himself.
Hey everybody, I'm Dan Reed, Dan Reed Photo on Clav, and I also make a Modern Journey cassette interface board that you can pick up at paradisearcadeshop.com, and I've been restoring games for 10 years-ish.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That brings us to Mark, the third host of Arcade Radio. Welcome to your first official hosting duty, Mark.
The best host.
Nice. Hey, Mark Shields, Time Runner on Clav, TimeMachineRental.com for your time travel needs, UncleRicoVan.com for your, I guess, your Napoleon Dynamite needs. I don't know. I'm still working on this intro. I mean, I've been on this call for 2 weeks, so I didn't
have the time.
Yeah, I haven't prepped.
And that brings us to our esteemed guest this week, our guest host, Joe Leis. Joe, why don't you just give us a little background on yourself?
Well, I'm Joe Leis. I've lived in the Twin Cities 43 years. Actually, all my life. I was out of the Twin Cities for 3 years is all. So, been part of the game industry since 1977. And
wow.
That's pretty good. Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So, normally what we do is go and sort of do a quick round robin of anything we're working on. I kind of would like to talk a little bit about, a continuation of the last episode. I had that jukebox problem I was talking about. Well, Joe came over last week and we hovered over that thing for a couple hours, took the whole thing apart. Well, we took the whole gripper mechanism apart and re-greased the thing, and it's back in service. So thank you, Joe Leis.
You're welcome.
What kind of jukebox are we talking about, boys?
It's a Rockola 460,
Nice.
160 selection, so 80 records. It's kind of sort of a space agey looking thing. I actually sought out that box because I had seen it in a Showbiz Pizza when I was a kid, and I just thought it looks like it belongs on a spaceship. So when I went to go find my jukebox, I actually put a Craigslist want ad out for it. There were 2 models that matched the description, and I was lucky enough to have a guy in South Dakota offered to deliver it to me for $600 in perfect working order. So, that probably saved me $150 in shipping, at least. And I got a jukebox out of the deal. So, yeah, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Dan, are you working on anything right now?
No, but I got my Dragon's Lair working finally.
You did?
Yes, I did.
Sweet.
All right. So the Merlin Dexter combo is in action.
And it is absolutely spectacular. If you have a laser game, I highly recommend it. I, for the first time ever, beat Dragon's Lair.
Sweet.
Yep. Yeah. Dead
Congrats.
serious.
That's this is 2 wins in a row.
I
got a
know.
working jukebox.
I mean, I literally fired the game up, turned on. The motion it's perfect.
Oh, that's awesome.
It goes from scene to scene instantly. I'm just blown away. It's literally like playing it for the first time ever. Best
cool.
money I ever spent. Love it.
And so there's no jogging or anything. There's no jog time.
Nope.
So it just loads instantly, I bet.
It's perfect.
That's so
And,
cool.
And it also has Space Ace on it, so whenever I fire up my arcade, the problem was I used to have the attract mode on.
Right.
Because I like attract modes.
I do too.
But, after an hour of hearing the Dragon's Lair thing, it drove you kind of bananas. So the benefit of the Merlin board is I have Dragon's Lair, Space Ace, and I think Dragon's Lair 2. So it cycles through all of the intros, and then it has another cycle of just silence. So you get Dragon's Lair, then the same thing without any attract.
Cool.
And then you get Space Ace and the same thing without any attract. So
Well, I know you're having some huge problems with that, so congratulations.
oh yeah, thanks, man.
And so is that can you put Firefox on that or any other lasers on it?
I know you need the ROMs for it, but I don't think it works with the PCB. So it has to work in conjunction with the PCB. Yeah.
That's
So
right.
if you had a Firefox PCB, sure.
Plus it had a yoke, so you wouldn't be able to play it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Firefox pretty much stinks.
It's not good.
It's not
Mach 3, on the other hand, that was a game. That was
Oh,
worth
dude,
doing.
Mach 3 was fantastic. I remember being blown away in the arcade when I saw that for the first time.
Yeah, it was an awesome game. It was too bad it didn't live through the technology thing.
What year did that come out? 84?
Yeah,
Probably, I think I saw it after Space Ace, so it had to have been 84, 85. Yeah, sounds about right.
they all Astron Belt, Mach 3, Dragon's Lair all came out within 2 years of each other.
Oh, wow.
Says
Short-
1983. Says. Got to Google that stuff when you're on a radio show just to make sure you don't sound like an idiot.
Yeah, there you go.
Didn't that come out in 1987? So that brings us to Mark. Are you working on anything? Did you finish anything up?
Yes, I sold my Stealth Donkey Kong, which is a restored Donkey Kong cabinet, but it has a JAMA harness in it, and that's going to help pay my property taxes here in Texas.
That must have been a good price tag. Can you share that?
I got $1,500 for it.
Wow, nice work.
But I was patient, and I wasn't going to. It has a CRT, and it was very much honoring the Donkey Kong. Although, I gave the guy an option. I had my 2-board stack that had the adapter to plug into the JAMA, or I had my game with a bunch of other, a PCB with a bunch of games on it, and he picked that one. So I was like, okay, fair enough.
That's awesome.
Pretty cool guy. Had a bunch of stuff in his garage. It's funny, when I dropped the game off, he was like, I only want to have this garage door open for 5 minutes because my neighbors see this, they'll be here and they'll want to play this stuff, and then I'll never have privacy. So it was a very, clandestine, he opened it and I put it in and he shut it as fast as possible.
Wow.
So it's pretty cool. But I'm working on 2 more Donkey Kong cabinets, to fill the hole in my heart.
Great. 2 Tubins, 2 Donkey Kongs. You just have 2 of everything.
2 Tubins and two Donkey Kongs, right?
Nice.
But Dan's story reminded me of something. In the 80s, I used to be on BBSs, and there was this really cool BBS called the Mines of Moria.
Oh, yeah.
And they had a Dragon's Lair and a Space Ace. They had all sorts of solution text files. If you paid a lot of money, you'd be in like the 9th circle or whatever it was. And we would print that out, go to Circle K, and then win the game. But we wouldn't tell people how we'd done it.
and then you'd download the Anarchist Cookbook and okay.
Like you actually got the Dragon's Lair how to beat it?
Yeah, it was just a text file with left, right. It wasn't really well thought out, because if you got lost, you would, obviously like, I don't know where we are,
Was it written by Steve Sanders?
I'm not familiar with that guy.
Maybe we can get him on the show. Anyway, he's the kid that cheated on Donkey Kong, and then he wrote a book about it. He wrote a book on how to win at Donkey Kong, which is really rare if you can find it. It's worth like $25 if you can find it.
$25.
It's like it was published on Bantam for like, $1.25 or something, and now it costs $25 if you want it, because it's out of print. Anyway, that's cool. Before we get into our interview, I think we should maybe do a little, I don't know.
It's the Arcade News with Don Reed.
Well, hi there. Hey, Mark, you want to share this with me, buddy?
Yeah, you guys should split up the news. You got show notes open?
Sure.
Yeah.
Why don't you take the first one there?
Sure.
Dateline, Bloomington, Minnesota.
Yeah.
The MOA. Smash, an arcade on steroids, has opened at the Mall of America on Tuesday.
All right. Yeah, it was just this week.
And that's Smash with 3 A's.
Yeah, it's really difficult. Like, if you want to look it up, you can't just put Smash in there.
Interesting. The founders are seeing it as a $12 million venture, as an ideal fit in the mall. I don't know if that made sense, but...
Yeah, it is. They spent $12 million, 40,000 square foot space at the 4th floor of the Mall of America. It's a VR.
Two-story blacklight go-kart track.
2 stories.
They go something like 80 miles an hour, these go-karts.
Oh my God.
It's supposed to be just fan-flipping-tastic.
I would love to try that.
I have to go.
We should go as a team.
Yes.
Mark, can you fly up here for that?
Yeah, Mark, come on up.
My wife's family's up there. Of course, there's plenty of reasons to go up there. I mean, and plus, up there where that place is, there used to be like Princess Diana's dresses. So this is like an improvement.
Yeah. Well, it used to be when it first opened in 92. By the way, next year is the 20th anniversary. Is that right? 25th anniversary of it opening. So of the MOA. opening. But anyway, that was like
you guys know too much about shopping malls. This is going downhill quick.
I used to hang out up there because that was like the bar scene. It was American Sports Bar. They had an 80s bar. They had a piano bar. They had Jillian's, which had an arcade. Joe, did you ever have to go to?
No, I was never at Jillian's.
But you know of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had the... go ahead.
They didn't last very long up there.
Yeah, they were there a few years, and then Jillian's ended up buying everything, the Players Club, all those bars and everything. Fat Tuesdays got shut down for serving minors. There was a place called Gators that served gator meat. Knuckleheads, which was a comedy bar, which I went to several times. Frank Caliendo from MST3K, I saw him there. Hooters, ironically, is the only restaurant that has maintained a presence on that fourth floor for the entire place. Planet Hollywood was there, that shut down. So this is a 40,000 square foot venture, $12 million, 9-year lease.
Wow.
It's a pretty big deal. I remember that arcade there, by the way. They had a time traveler.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. They also had an American Sports Bar. They had 2 VR games from the 90s.
Oh, I remember that.
Remember
you stood in the column.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you put on the VR head. I did that.
Me too.
Oh,
yeah.
It was garbage.
It was terrible.
Garbage.
It was the worst thing ever. It was
just
so
garbage. I wonder.
slow.
I frequently wonder where the heck those things went to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was awful.
Probably
They're my storage unit.
junk.
Mark has 2.
Yeah.
2 VRs.
Nobody has ever, to my knowledge, in our circle of hobbyists, collected one of those.
Mm-mm.
They were very spendy.
Yeah. What on the used market, you'd probably spend a couple grand.
Probably because that was a $30,000 piece brand new.
Oh my gosh. No wonder they went out of business.
Yeah.
So what's next on the news list?
Jukeboxparts.com is shutting down.
Oh, wait, hold up a second. I think Joe should speak to this one.
Oh, it's going to be a sad day. He called himself the largest jukebox junkyard in the universe.
Well, I think he was actually probably.
Yeah, no doubt about it. If you went to his website, you would see he had a tour that you could take, a virtual tour of his warehouse, and that warehouse was huge, and you would go bay after bay, 3 stories high on these on the stackers, with jukebox after jukebox after jukebox,
in every era.
Every era. He collected everything, and it was pretty much just for parts. He would sell all over the nation. You'd call him up, and you had to have a part number for him or some kind of a good description.
Yeah, well, I can interject here on the 460, and I've told Joe this story before, but in fact, I told him last week while we were working on it. There is a piece of glass. There are 2 pieces of glass on the front of the jukebox, above and below the speaker sets. And it's maybe 2 inches by about, 3 feet long. And it's when I got the jukebox, the one thing that was wrong with it, there was a crack in that it was split. And so I thought, well, I wonder if I can find a replacement piece. And so I call up, and I think his name's John Durfee. Yeah. So, anyway, you can't call him, you email back and forth. And so I was describing this piece to him. And I must have had to go back 2 or 3 times. Like, it's this piece on this in a 460. He goes, all right, I can sell it to you. And it was like $50 plus shipping. So I think it ended up being like a $60 piece, $65 piece or something. And it took me forever to get the whole thing apart and put it back together. But I thought, that's a lot of money. $65 for a piece of glass on a used jukebox from 1975 that nobody else wants except me. And I forked over the money. So
yeah, but when you think about it, it took him that long to take it out too. So there's a lot of time involved in.
Yeah, we discussed it last week, and I said, well, that seems, and Joe says that seems pretty fair. And I said, I guess if I were to charge him my hourly rate for taking that out of the machine, it would be more than $65.
Seems like a pretty good deal considering how much time he probably put into it. What's the story here? It doesn't say if he's retiring or what on his website here, jukeboxparts.com.
Well,
any idea?
I don't have a good idea of that, but I do know that he's still going to be selling the jukebox needles and his brand name stuff that he's been selling. He's just getting out of the used parts.
Yeah, and so what people are doing is they're driving from all over the country, and he's just invited them to come with their truck. And you fill up the truck, and he gives you a price, and you drive off.
That's amazing. That's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for some of these, jukebox owners. It's amazing.
It would be like if Bob Roberts, decided to sell off his inventory and just told everybody from the arcade hobby to just come over and fill up their trucks with stuff, and he'd give you a one-stop shop price,
And a moon pie.
and a set of small screwdrivers. So,
well, it's a pretty sad day when you think about it, because there's a lot of people out there looking for parts for their jukeboxes, and he was pretty much the only one that you could find used parts at a reasonable price with.
Yeah, and we were discussing this offline. Dan and I were, and you got two kinds of people going to buy that stuff, right? You have the people that are going to resell it, and hopefully they'll put it in a store and they'll have a good inventory. And maybe there'll be some competition created out of it. But that's like the ideal, I would think that would be the ideal thing that would happen. And Dan and I were thinking that mostly hoarders are probably buying it.
Hoarders, absolutely. Mark, thoughts?
Well,
I am always disappointed at the end of an era. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say you have to consider the fact that most of those jukeboxes have had parts taken out of them, so they're not going to be complete.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It changes the whole picture when you pick up a jukebox and you got to go shopping for more parts.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true.
I have picked up many arcade games that somebody had started to part out. Like I have a mousetrap that is missing some of its guts. So if anybody online hears this podcast and knows about a couple coin doors from Mousetrap, give me a call.
Those are coin control doors. They're super easy to find.
Are they?
Yep.
They have an exidy thing in the middle, and they're a little weird.
The one on... Okay, so I just... surprise, I bought a Mousetrap last week.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I did. So a guy on the Midwest...
How odd is that?
The Midwest group, Midwest Collecting Group on Facebook. One of the guys got on there and was asking about the value of a mousetrap. And I said, is that because you're buying or selling? And then I sent him a private message. Turns out he's selling. And it's working, but the sound doesn't work. It's complete. It's dirty. So it just needs some cleanup. And he took a bunch of pictures. I would equate it to probably the condition of your Super Pack, Mark.
Oh, nice. Well, my sound doesn't work on the PCB I have either. I got that from Chris Gack.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna fix mine, and I'll fix the sound, and I'll tell you what was wrong, and maybe we'll fix two at once.
Yes.
And if I need any help, I'll call Joe. No joke.
I think those coin doors on my Bandito, anyway, they were damn near identical to Midway coin doors.
Okay.
Those exidy coin doors. I bet you could keep the frame and swap the actual door out with a Midway coin door, and I bet it would work.
The interesting thing about the mousetrap doors, and Mark, interject anytime, but the left side, the doors appear to be, there's no split between the doors because it's meant as an access panel for the board.
Right.
Right. So they're two doors, but they're basically parallel, and you open them and there's nothing. It's just a big hole in the machine, so you can reach in and grab the board.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Joe, did you work on any mousetraps?
Oh, it goes back a long ways when they were new. Just about anything that was new at the time I worked on.
Yeah. Do you remember that particular unit with the 3 buttons on top, and you were a mouse and turned into a dog when you picked up the bone? And
Yeah, I wasn't real fond of that game, so I played it a few times, but I really wasn't.
So you guys are gonna love this, and this is a segue into the Christmas stories section, which I wanted to talk about. But I bought the Mousetrap for my fiance because 2 years ago at MGC she played it, and she said if we can ever get a Mousetrap, I want a Mousetrap. So this thing comes up last week, and I said, how would you like a Mousetrap for Christmas?
Aww.
And she said, I would love one.
Aww.
And I'm like, yes. Yeah, she's sort of awesome.
Sort of awesome? Is she listening?
She might be our third listener from time to time.
Our regular caller.
Yeah, she is our regular caller. She's our prank caller.
Well, you always got to have a shill in the crowd, don't you?
So do we have any other news articles to talk about?
Looks like there's an arcade hockey game for the PC, PS4, and Xbox One. Kind of harkens back to the violent 70s with beer, blood, brawls, and disco.
Yeah, and I kind of, that's kind of appealing to me. Like some of the, I'm not a big sports fan in general. I don't play sports. I played a little bit in high school and junior high, but I was more into theater and whatever, and I just didn't do that sort of stuff. So, but I love like Super Tecmo Bowl. I loved 10-Yard Fight in the arcade for some reason. Yeah. Cyberball, you guys remember that? It was like
Cyberball.
Mark has too.
Cyberball 2048 or something.
Yeah, 2049.
2049.
Yeah, that was an awesome game.
Yeah, and it was like robot football, right? And the ball came up, and it was just a lot of fun. So this hockey game looks interesting because they're like none of them are wearing helmets, and there's like a storyline and some interesting stuff in there.
Well, I'll check that out.
Yeah. I don't have any of the modern consoles though, so it'll be a while before I do that. My PS3 is vintage now. So anyway, I think
Oh, sorry. I was off by. Go ahead.
So, yeah. So, Joe Leis, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here.
We're just going to kind of attack you with questions for the next hour. How's that sound?
That sounds okay. I'll answer whatever I can. And you know what? One of my favorite sayings is, if you can't dazzle them with your footwork, baffle them with your BS. So here we go.
That sounds great. Well, just to get things started, again, thank you for being our guest. Could you just give us sort of a background? I know you were in the Air Force, joined something like 1972. Just kind of walk us through how that played into you getting into the electronics industry and where it took you into the arcade industry a little bit, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, I wasn't much of a student when I was in high school. And actually, when I got out of high school, I thought I'd better try and go to school somewhere else. So I went to tech school, and I was going to look into auto mechanics. And after taking the entrance test, they said, maybe you want to try something different. Auto mechanics isn't really a brain thing, see? So I kind of got the idea, well, school's not really for me here. So, well, I had a low draft number, so I was due to be drafted anyway. So I joined the Air Force. And again, in the Air Force, they kind of tease you and ask you what you want to do. And so I told them auto mechanics, and so I took their exam, and they kind of concurred. But what he did say is, he said, you might have an ability in electronics. And I said, what? So anyway, I just let them put me where they want me, and I ended up in radar repair.
Oh, that's cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting. It was an automatic tracking radar, and so I was expecting to go big places, and ended up in Bismarck, North Dakota for 3 years.
Whoa.
What are you tracking Bismarck, North Dakota with radar?
Well, our peacetime effort was basically to have the B-52s would fly over a they called it a corridor, and then they would practice dropping bombs on North Dakota, and our job was to pick them up, track them, and when he says bombs away, score where the bomb hit and how close it hit to the target.
And so those just didn't have warheads; they would just drop.
Yeah, they were simulated drops,
and they would go clunk.
Yeah. Although there was a few times when we'd get a call from a farmer that something fell out of the bomb bay doors when.
Oh,
that's a little scary.
Yeah.
and the bombardiers are like, "Did we hit our mark? Did we hit our mark?"
Well, they'd cheat. They'd come in, about the lowest level that we could pick them up at is around 250, 300 feet. And then they'd be pretty close to us if we did pick them up. But they'd cheat and they'd come flying in at around 200 feet. North Dakota's flat as a pancake, so they can do that. And then if we miss them, then they get an automatic direct hit. So that's why they cheat and try and come in. But at any rate, when I got out of the service, then I decided I should really do something because I had a family by then, and so I went to school at Brown Institute. And at Brown, I was planning on going into biomedical electronics, which was a good field. I mean, at that time, it was just breaking open. But
especially in Minnesota, you have Medtronic.
Yeah, well, Medtronics was about the only thing in Minnesota at the time.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty small company to work for. I did interview with them, and they offered me a position on the assembly line, but it really wasn't something that I wanted to do there. So
just put stuff together for 8 hours a day.
Yeah, so I thought, well, I'll just kind of hang out and see what comes up in the near future. Well, in the meantime, while I was going to school, I picked up a job with Advanced Carter Company, which was Norman Pink was the president of the company, and they operated games all over the Twin Cities.
And it was called Advanced Carter?
Advanced Carter. At the time, it was Advanced Carter,
okay.
Yes. And he also had the Piccadilly Circus chain, and while I was working for him, he opened the Circus Pizza
yeah.
chain.
Interesting.
So,
which we all know is like, I don't know, it was one of the big five,
Yeah, he came in about the same time Showbiz was going out.
Okay.
So was this in Southtown?
He did not have an arcade he had Southdale shopping center. We had a Piccadilly Circus in there.
That was on the lower floor?
Yeah.
Near like Music Land, I think?
At first it was there, and then they moved us to a different location in the same mall.
Yeah.
But,
Wow, that's really bizarre. I can't tell you how many times I was there when I was a kid.
Well, and Circus operated everywhere for a while. I mean, wasn't there Circus in Wisconsin too?
Well, we had, they called them Circus, just plain Circus.
Oh, okay.
And that was a joint venture with Lieberman Enterprises that Norman had entered into. And
for those that don't know, Lieberman Enterprises, they're still around. And they used to supply music for jukebox, and they had a repair department for arcades. They were the supplier and for vending arcades, pinballs for Minnesota, one of the largest suppliers, and they had a bunch of operators that worked for them. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but I just wanted to give people a background about Lieberman. Not to derail you.
Sure. No. So anyway, the circus chain, those were out of the Twin Cities area. So we had them in Brainerd, at Watertown we opened, but we didn't have that open very long. Hibbing, Bemidji, Kalamazoo, Michigan, Marinette, Wisconsin. There was a few others. I don't remember them offhand. Okay, so that was Circus. And then Piccadilly Circus, that was in the Twin Cities area.
Okay.
And those were in all the Dales.
Oh, yeah.
And we had one at Harmar.
Okay.
And, off the top of my head.
Yeah, Harmar. They had the movie theater over there.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Harmar. That's gone now, isn't it?
Right. When AMC opened the new one over across the way in the Rosedale Theater,
Took it out.
that's when they had bought the it was United Artists at prior to that. Mm-hmm. And when United Artists went belly up, then AMC bought all of their theaters.
So how long did you work for Circus?
I was 23 years with Norman.
Wow.
Wow.
And then when he went to retire, he kind of sold off the company in pieces. Chuck E. Cheese came back into town, and he sold a few of the circuses to Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah, so the circus, it was by that time, were they calling it Circus?
No, the Circus name only happened for just a little while.
Okay.
Because Circus in Las Vegas really didn't like us using their name. So
I should have settled for Circus.
yeah, we needed a few more circuses.
So there was a Circus Pizza at Centennial Lakes, right near where Cucumbers is. And now that's a Chuck E. Cheese.
Yes.
So that must have been one of the takeover, or one of the ones they sold off.
One that they sold off, and that one was the last one that Norman had opened as a Circus Pizza.
Oh, okay.
Chuck E. Cheese was up in the south. It was on 66th.
Okay.
That little mall up there.
Yeah. Southtown.
Yeah, I wanted to call it Southtown, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, Southtown. Yeah.
So
that was a timber lodge after that for a while.
I still can pretty much from my parents' house walk there. I used to when I was a kid.
That was your Chuck E. Cheese, Dan?
Oh, yeah.
So, brief history. Chuck E. Cheese came into Twin Cities, early 80s. Showbiz Pizza became a competitor to Chuck E. Cheese. A couple of guys didn't like the way things were being run by Nolan, so they split off their own chain, did their own thing. Nolan ran Chuck E. Cheese into the ground, or at least the people he handed it off to did. And the Showbiz guys bought out Chuck E. Cheese. A lot of people think that it was the other way around, but actually Showbiz bought Chuck E. Cheese, which then they decided to keep the Chuck E. Cheese branding because it was a little bit more recognizable. Showbiz hadn't been quite as widespread. But boy, I really liked the Rockafire Explosion. The characters in Chuck E. Cheese just weren't as good. I don't know what you thought, Joe.
Oh, I agree with you. That Rockafire Explosion was an awesome show. And Norman had bought a Rockafire for each one of the Circus Pizzas.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so he was operating those. Other than Centennial Lakes did not have a Rockafire Explosion.
No, yeah.
They Norman put in a different show that it was made by the same people, but
okay. Aaron Fector, I think his name is.
Yeah.
Is that right, guys?
Let me check my sources. I have no idea.
I saw the movie. I don't remember his name. He was a weirdo, that's for sure.
Oh, he's an entrepreneur, you know.
Yeah, a weirdo.
A few years ago, he was making some sort of grill product, and then.
So, Joe, I have to ask you this because it just occurred to me with the whole Lieberman connection. Did you have any ties to Beanie's Arcade?
Well, now, where I got to know Beanie's is that round about 1989, 90.
So that was probably at the end of its life.
Yeah.
What happened was Lieberman's again made a deal with Norman, and American Amusement Arcades was formed.
Oh, yeah. Ernie.
Right. Okay, so what that basically was is a combination of the Twin City Novelty route, which was owned by Lieberman's, and Norman's route, which was Advance Carter. And so they combined the two companies.
And AAA is still there.
AAA is still operating now. That went on for about 10 years, and then they got a divorce.
Oh,
sadly enough.
Okay.
So Beanie's Arcade came along with the Twin City Novelty thing because Gene Winstead, who was at one time he was the mayor of Edina, I believe.
Oh,
he's the mayor of Bloomington now, actually.
He still is?
Yeah, he is.
Awesome.
Amazing.
That's a long term.
So he had his own route, and he sold his route to Twin City Novelty years before that. So that's kind of the connection that I had. So I worked with Gene at AAA.
Let me get this straight. Did you just say the mayor had a route?
Before he was the mayor, yes.
So he was an operator?
He was an operator, yes.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So
I've had several people on, you guys can corroborate this, or at least Dan could because he's local, tell me that Beanie's was sort of known for being seedy. Oh man, that was my jam. I played 720 there. I can't tell you how many games that was the arcade for me. I heard there were like drug deals and stuff that happened in the back. I have no idea. I was totally oblivious to that when I was probably. It was 12, probably 13. more like my friend Matt Sparby's mom saying, "You can't go there because people deal drugs in there." Could be. Maybe Joe could speak to that, but man, they had some great games at that joint.
I don't know nothing.
But I'm sure, you've probably touched tons of, arcades in the Twin Cities that we've never even seen. Aladdin's Castle was probably a competitor to Circus.
Yeah, Aladdin's Castle, they were around probably before Circus, but not before, it was probably about the same time that the Piccadilly circuses started opening up. The Aladdin Castles were in there. So Aladdin's actually had 5 or 6 arcades in the Twin Cities at the same time we were operating the Piccadilly circuses. They also had Le Mans Fun Centers, which were kind of on the outskirts. I have some of those tokens, and I always wondered why they were the same shape as Aladdin's tokens, because Aladdin's tokens were they had uneven edges. Sure. So they look like, some sort of gold pieces rather than a token. Right. I come to think of it, think of how amazing it was back then. I don't think anybody understands, unless you actually grew up in that era, how many arcades there actually were active back then. I mean, they were everywhere. Oh, it was pretty amazing. Basically, when the first videos hit the market, the arcade business just exploded because there was so much money. You could literally make a fortune in a year's time and retire. Wow! Some of that stuff. It was just amazing, and the Twin Cities was basically behind the scene or behind the market. You go out to the East Coast and the West Coast, and it was just a heyday for the operators. I mean, the guys that were in business running pinball machines in the 70s all of a sudden have a windfall of cash that just came rolling in just because they went out and bought Pac-Man, Space Invaders, Asteroids, the whole works. It was like Christmas 360. Every day of the year, they'd come in with smiles on their faces, and they just loved it. Give us a feel for what it was like. I know you... well, maybe you can kind of answer 2 questions. So talk a little bit more about what your role was working for Norman, and then describe what it was like during this boom of arcades, like how many times you might have emptied a Miss Pac-Man in a week, that kind of thing. Okay, so I wasn't on the collection end of it. I didn't do any collections for Norman until basically I grew up with the company, and when I first started with him, my first job as an electronic technician was rebuilding foosball tables. And our shop manager, Chuck Peterson, he moved me ahead, and eventually I was fixing the electromechanical pinball machines, and then eventually I was working on the electronic pinball machines, and then the electronic pinball machine hit the market at the same time as the vids. Okay, so here we are. We're going on two parallel tracks, and you don't really know which way to go with them, because the pinballs were just making money hand over fist too at the time, because they were new, and they were a whole lot fancier.
No solid state.
Right.
Yeah.
And so literally we were bringing in new games every day. There was a new game come in, and we'd get it set up, get it out on the route. Norman wanted them out on the route as quick as he could. Okay, so our job in the shop was to not only repair the games that were out there, but our job was also to make sure and get all the new games out on the street as fast as we could.
So, like SS Billiards, that's been around for a million years. You had an interesting story to tell us about football when it came out. We were talking about popular games, and I happen to have a Atari football, and it's a really great game. We played it a little bit last week, but I think you have a good story about that.
Oh, yeah. Well, Mabel was a very special customer of ours, and she was a pinball lady. If you wanted to play the latest and the greatest, you went to Mabel's,
which is
SNS.
Which is SNS Billiards, right?
Right. And the reason that she had the best is because she knew she had a good location, and Norman was her operator. And Norman owned all those games at the time. Mm-hmm. Now Lloyd owns everything he's got right now, I believe. But Mabel dealt with Norman, and when Mabel said "I want," Norman said "Okay." Well, then when the football came out, Norman didn't even have a football yet. And Mabel's calling him saying, "I want this. I need it. I want it in here next week." He says, "I don't have one to give you." "Well, get it." So he got it. He called Lieberman's and said, "Ship it in. Get it in here." Well, we put it in, and within 2 weeks, we were out there on a service call. And what had happened is they played that thing so hard that you opened up the control panel, and the controllers were in pieces. They literally fell out of the machine and fell into pieces. So we had to go back and rebuild all those controllers. Well, the newer controllers that you find in them now, they're all one piece, but these were you had a jillion pieces in there that you had to put back together. So, and then a few weeks later, she's on the phone. "Get out here, get it fixed," and you're dealing with the same thing. So it was pretty awesome. It was a great game at the time. Black and white, one of the last of the black and whites, really.
Yeah, and has awesome sound, and it's a great game.
It's a cocktail, right?
Yeah.
Would you have a 2 or a 4?
It's a 2. The one I have.
Yeah, and
4s are rare.
Yeah, it originally came out as a 2, and then the 4 didn't come out. It was probably 3 years after the 2-player came out.
But that's the one where you could pass to your buddy.
Right.
So you could have 2 people on each end of the machine.
Yeah, that was an awesome game. So it's kind of on my hit list to have someday.
Do you own any games right now?
Oh, I've got a few. I've what you might call a small-time operator. I have 2 whole locations that I operate machines in.
3 in summer, I hear.
3 in the summer, yeah. The third one is a campground, and then I've got a roller rink, and I've got a bowling alley up in Princeton. So
cool.
And in those 2, I've probably got a total of maybe 45 pieces in there.
Okay.
And then my barn is just a little bit more. Not much more, but just a little bit more. And
so
none of those work.
For the hobbyists listening that may know of like FET or some of the collectors around this area. And Dan, I don't know. I'm not sure if you've ever been up to Joe's pole barn in Princeton, but he's got this.
No, I haven't yet.
Got a pole barn, and I have at least probably 5 games out of that thing.
Oh yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah. My Tempest came from there. My Donkey Kong. My Tron that's sitting in the garage waiting to be restored is in there. Technically, the Tron that I first built came from Joe because he sourced the bump and chump cabinet for me. Then we did a conversion on that thing, sort of a hack job, but it ended up being a really nice machine. And then, is that it? Joe's got a call. Service call.
Yeah.
It's gotta go.
This is it.
Yeah, so I've got a number of games I know. Oh, we pulled a Gorf out of there for my buddy Matt.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And what did you pick up there in Mora when I closed that location down?
Oh yeah. So I got my Popeye. I got a Hang On. I got Road Blaster's Cockpit.
Yeah.
Sweet.
That sucker's in storage right now till I build the edition, or I have to sell it because I just need the money to get another game. Yeah. So, and then I think that was it. And then I got that was it. A Hang On, a Popeye, and Road Blasters. Oh no. Was there one other one? I thought I had 3 games, but maybe it was just...
Yeah, you had to come back and get one. I can't remember.
Hang On, Road Blasters, Popeye.
I can picture where it was sitting. It was sitting next to that Victory Road that I've still got in the pole barn. Victory Road with the joysticks. The rotary joysticks, yeah.
Yeah, people are looking for those.
Yeah. Yeah, the joysticks are probably worth more than the game, but...
Yeah. Well, then, Joe helped me sell my first jukebox. I had a row. So now you're running Leisureman Enterprises as a side gig, right? Is that what you call it?
Right. It's my retirement income is basically what it boils down to.
Okay.
Do you have a website for that?
I do have a website. It's not a very good one, but it's up and as Adam would say, if you weed through it, you can find my number on there somewhere.
All the games have been taken down. It's been up for a while. Leisureman.com, right?
Right.
So, but now you primarily do house routes, or you have you service calls to people's houses?
Well, when Norman laid me off, I started my own business. Actually, I started it up knowing that I was going to get laid off, so I had about a 9-month jump on the situation. And while I was in process of being laid off, I bought Norman's parts department. So that's how I started my company.
Okay.
And I started it with the intention that the small-time operator that couldn't afford a full-time tech, that I would be able to bridge that gap for him.
Okay.
And so I did it. I ended up getting a couple of contracts with a few operators, but in the meantime, I started getting calls for service calls in people's homes.
And I was one of those guys.
You were one of those guys. and for a while, Lieberman's was referring me. Ernie would refer me on most of my calls. And
Ernie's retired now, but Ernie was like the guy at Lieberman. He supplied a dartboard for a friend of mine. It's a Super 6 Plus, just like the one that Joe supplied for me when I first moved into this house. So, but yeah, Ernie is a really great guy. I don't know how he's doing these days, but he was awesome whenever I went over to talk to him. And
well, the last time I talked to him, he was he didn't have much time to talk because he was just getting himself ready to do a regatta up there on Leech Lake. So he's a sailor. So
good.
I think his dream was to go to Florida and teach sailing.
Okay,
but I don't think he's done that yet.
Joe, you ever come across anything that you found unusual and then regretted later? some ultra rare game or something similar?
Oh, I've regretted selling a lot of different games that I wish I had now, but I had pretty much the whole Star Wars series, Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. And I had them both in upright, and the Empire and the Star Wars. I had at least twice I've had the cockpit style, and sold it and then bought another one. And, so that's always been my favorite. Tempest is the same way. I've probably owned 5 or 6 Tempests in my life, and I always regret selling them. And I'm sorry. I was just asking Adam if he was ready to part with his, because I'm ready again.
I have a tubes kit in it, and I totally rebuilt the 6100. It needed a bezel. I got a bezel for it. I've redone the spinner on it. So I have a big investment in that game. So I'm going to hang on to it.
Yeah. Getting back to your question, I think probably the most unusual piece that I ran across was it was a missile command that was made by Cade. And I'd never seen anything like that.
That was Sega, wasn't it?
Or Sega, I'm sorry.
It was branded Sega. Yeah.
Right.
Turns out it's a European edition.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, it was really bizarre. I posted pictures of it on... I took pictures. Remember that one day I was over and looking through the pole barn, wishing, as I often did. Mm-hmm. I took pictures and put them up on Clav, so those pictures exist on Clav somewhere.
Oh, I should look that up.
Yeah.
Okay, and you had mentioned the Time Traveler. I scrapped out 2 of those because of the disc player.
Yeah. It's amazing, the technology now. They actually have the replacement players for them. So
yeah, if I would have hung on to it, but it burned.
It did, or it didn't earn? I never knew about that game. Was that a good earner?
No, it didn't earn. It burned.
Oh, it burned.
Yeah, we burned it.
Burned
that was Sega also?
That was Sega, yes.
Was that the holographic machine?
It was.
Yeah. There was one of those at MGC a couple years ago, and it was for sale. It was like $900.
Yeah.
Oh, I should have got that.
Yeah, that's a pretty good deal actually for a time traveler, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Brad, small town guy 2 on Clav almost bought it. He was trying to talk the guy down.
It's a total crap game, but
yeah.
It's kind of neat though.
It's a unique thing.
Made by what do they call themselves? Something Leisure. Digital Leisure was the name of that guy's company.
No, that's Dragon's Lair. That's Don Bluth.
Yeah, it's the same company.
They own it?
No, the same people made the game. It was branded by Sega.
I think Digital Leisure bought the rights to Dragon's Lair later down the road.
Yeah, but the guy that Digital Leisure, the guy that owned that company, was the guy that invented that game. Don Bluth did the artwork.
Really?
Yep. There's a whole video on it, and he talks about his pitch, and he had like this printout game that he did, and he did. There was a Wild West game he did too. Quick Draw McGraw was his game.
No, it's Mad Dog McCree.
Mad Dog McCree. Yeah, believe that's also the same guy.
Oh, cool. Interesting.
Okay, I have a question.
Okay.
So I'm interested, what part did you take in doing any kind of conversions of any games? Because, once something stopped earning, you could bring it back in and then do a little conversion. Like, were there any mass conversions?
Oh, yeah. We had, we got into the cycle of converting everything that came in. That literally led to what people are calling very rare games, because if a game wasn't earning, we didn't care how old it was or what was going on. We were going to put the latest conversion into that. So we started out converting in the shop, and it got to a point where we contracted that out. We had a business associate up in Cook, Minnesota. We'd send them up there 100 games at a time. and he'd bring them back by the truckload, converted. The 10-yard fights, all of that. I call it gray area type conversions, because none of them were really big hits. You got Express Raider in there, that whole line of Data East conversion kits that just came out as conversion kits, and there was an era in time in there that the manufacturers were putting out very few dedicateds, and it was all kits. They were selling kits like they were going out of style.
So not to interrupt you, but just out of curiosity, was the painting the cabs black thing something that occurred in the 80s, or was that a recent event? Like, all these converted cabs now are all painted black. Well, did you guys care back then, or did you just take a Crystal Castles, rip the control panel out, retrofit it, slide it back into play?
No, we painted the cabinets too.
Okay.
A lot of that painted stuff, the missing artwork on the sides, that's all. We wanted to make it look like it was a dedicated game. The converted game was a dedicated game, because it cheapens it if it doesn't have the right graphics on the side or anything like that. So it was better for us to paint the game and leave it a flat black than to leave the old graphics on there.
Oh, that's interesting.
The Tron that I got from Joe had been converted to a C-Cross, and the side art had been pulled, so it was just black. They didn't paint it, but it was pulled off. But all those Tron lines on the front kind of went with the C-Cross marquee, and they at some point had put a Gorf stick on it because the Tron one had broken or something. So it was a black, and it was taped because it had broken probably on site. And then Donkey Kong, when I got that one, it had been converted to a street heat. Luckily, the cabinet hadn't been painted, but it was it was not the same game anymore. It's really weird to look at a Nintendo cabinet where they flipped the bezel so that you couldn't see the Donkey Kong logos, and then it's got like a steering wheel at a 90-degree angle. Because you know what I mean? So it's not like a turbo or or a pole position, but you're actually like playing the game as if the steering wheel were just put on top of a table. So just bad conversion. And there were a lot of street heat conversions on Donkey Kong.
Oh, there were, yeah. Well, see, what happened was Nintendo made the Uni system, and the Uni system was designed to go into a Donkey Kong cabinet.
Okay. To
get more life out of that Donkey Kong cabinet. Well, we would have been better off to leave them as Donkey Kongs. We had done so many conversions that we had one of our bays in our warehouse had one full wall that was a three tiers of stackers, and that whole set of tiers was full with boxes of old board sets that came out of the games.
Wow!
Because I at the time I was kind of an assistant shop manager, and I wouldn't let them throw that stuff away. They would have thrown it away, but I wouldn't let them throw it away. So we stored it in boxes and just had tons of it sitting there. Well, eventually a good portion of it got thrown away, but I did put a bid on it with Norman and took a full. We had a pickup with a topper on it that was. And I had that thing loaded just full all the way, and it wasn't a short topper. It looked like a camper.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was just a gutted out camper, and I had that thing stacked. I mean, full. You couldn't get another one in there. And took them home, sorted them out, and eventually eBayed a lot of that stuff out and sold it off. Aaron. Over there at Pinball. Big L's.
Big L's. Okay.
Yeah,
yep.
Yeah.
He's like his tech or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Aaron sold a lot of that stuff off for me.
Okay.
Yeah. And eBayed it out for me. So.
Do you ever have any dealings with Big Al?
I have sold Big Al some pinball machines, and I've bought a few pieces from him, not much, but
For those listening, Big Al's up in Blaine.
right, he's actually behind the Northtown Shopping Center, the Sam's Club that's right behind Northtown Shopping Center.
Yeah, and he's also very close to Blainebrook Bowl, which is an awesome place to go play pinball if you ever want to play pinball.
Mm-hmm.
But Blaine, I think his shop is on Main Street, if I remember.
Right.
but there's nothing on Main Street. It's like this dead end street that his shop is at the end of. I bought my Xenon pinball from him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's my connection to Alan. Actually, I negotiated the price down, which is hard to do with him.
Yeah, Al doesn't usually negotiate. Although, as he's gotten older, he's gotten a little bit easier to deal with. But he knew the value of that stuff. He would come into this is when we parked the pinball machines. We parked them because they weren't making the kind of money that the video games were making. And there was no reason to take up a valuable space with a pinball that was probably making $20-$30 a week at the most, when you could put any video game in there and do $100 a week with it. Yeah. So it was a no-brainer. Take it out of there and put something else. Well, these pinball machines, we had another full bay of nothing but pinball machines in there. And Big Al would come over there with his truck, and he'd load them up by the truckload. And
he's got them all stacked in his back warehouse.
Sure.
I peeked in that thing. It's huge, and it's full of games that are stacked on each other.
You know, and at that time, Ernie was part of our staff. Mm-hmm. That was before the divorce, and
so he worked for Circus, or you were both working for Lieberman?
Well, he worked for Advanced Carter Company.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I hired him into the shop.
Oh, there you go, small world.
Yeah, and then when they got their divorce, then he, not right away, he stayed until the end. He and I were the last two of the last three guys to go with Norman's company.
So did Norman actually fix anything, or was he just the boss?
He was the boss. Yeah. Don't say just the boss.
Sorry, Norman.
No, Norman was...
He's an entrepreneur.
One heck of a boss, really.
Awesome.
He was an awesome guy. He had a huge heart, and he just took good care of you. You know,
That's great.
He's a good man. And he literally, his route was probably the biggest one in the 5-state area.
Okay.
At one time, not counting the arcades. Mm-hmm. And then when he put me in as arcade district manager, literally I had all the out of town arcades that I was to be overseeing. Not the in-town ones, but the out-of-town ones. And I had 17 arcades that I had to go to.
That's a lot.
For sure.
Like, would you visit them all in a week, or was?
Oh, no, because we had 3 in Phoenix, and then the ones I had mentioned around the 5-state area here, and well, there was more in the 5-state area. We had Sioux Falls.
Did you fly to Phoenix then, or?
I'd fly into Phoenix.
Oh,
so
nice.
I had a few trips there.
That's kind of nice.
Yeah, that was a nice little perk. But anyway, getting back to Norman, he was the president of the AMOA. It was the Music Operators Association, National Association, for a few years in there too. That was before the merger between Twin City and Advanced Carter, but. Yeah, you can't say enough about him. I mean, if he
did he have a connection to Musicland?
Well, yes, indirectly, because he is, I believe, the cousin to Amos and Dan Heiliker.
Okay,
and the Heilikers were they basically built the Musiclands.
Yeah. That was the premier place to buy records in Twin Cities.
Oh yeah, and Amos. I mean, they grew up in the music side. Amos started out as an operator too. He started out with penny scales.
Really?
And there's a nice article about him. If you look him up on the web, it gives a real good history of him.
Okay.
Started his own recording company, called it Soma Records.
Yeah, I have some Soma records.
Soma is Amos spelled backwards.
Oh, there you go.
And you'd walk into his conference room. Now he officed right next door to us, and you'd walk into his conference room, and he had platinums and golds all around the perimeter of his conference rooms.
Very cool.
Yeah. So that's a whole nother end of it. And music has always been a big part of the amusement industry. I mean,
Yeah.
the big staple of all the way through has always been the juke, the pool table.
Yeah.
Those are the two.
Pinball is
You
sort
could
of.
Yeah, and pinball has always been around, but the staple has been pool and jukebox. If you got the music in the place and you got the jukebox, you don't really need anything else.
Yeah. You got a pool table and some music. What else do you need?
Right. Of course, you wouldn't let anybody else move in on top of you. So if the guy wanted a pinball machine or a video game, you put it in.
Yeah.
But it was just a courtesy, basically, until the video thing hit. And then you wanted every space. You'd be asking him to get rid of his tables so that you could put more games in there. And he's going, "Where's my customer going to sit then?" You know?
Wow.
So getting back to the that just reminds me of sort of the introduction of the video game, because you when you were talking earlier you called it when the videos came in, because originally they were TV games. They stuck a TV inside this thing and it had a coin mech, and you could play the game on the TV. So you had Pong, you had what's the one that's the very first one?
Computer space.
Computer space. Thanks, guys. So those literally had TVs in them,
Right.
and so up until that point, you had pinball machines and maybe some other amusement type machines, and along comes the video game, and you kind of joined into the fray right around the time Asteroids came in, or Space Invaders, or...
Yeah, I was a little bit before Asteroids. I think Asteroids is 79, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, and I was 77 is when I got into the industry. One of my jobs in the summertime when I first started with Norman was to maintain the arcade at Valley Fair.
Oh, awesome.
And he put... You would think that Norman would have put the latest and the greatest in there, but he kind of he knew.
Bunch of wet kids with don't care coming in there. There were photo booths. I remember that. Did you guys?
Oh yeah. Well, we didn't operate the photo booth in Valley Fair, but we did. He actually started his business with photo booth.
Oh, okay.
And it was autophoto is what they called them. Mm-hmm. You had the chemicals that you had to put into the machine, and if you ever opened it up and saw it operate, you had a transmission in there that would dunk the photo strip into
the different
12 different tanks. It would go in. It would wash. First it would develop it, then it would wash it, and then it would dip into another chemical, and then it would wash it, and then another chemical. It had several different stages, 12 different stops that it had to make before that photo booth came, the photo actually came out, and it would come out wet.
Yeah, the State Fair still has those under that glass by your coffee cup there. There's 2 sets of them.
Oh yeah,
we got those out of that machine, I think those might be operated by Summit Amusement.
No, Summit Amusement does not own those. That's,
okay.
That's Tasmania.
Oh.
Chris.
somebody or another.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Chris, if you're listening.
I guarantee you he's not.
Can't remember.
Maybe on iTunes.
On the replay.
He probably doesn't want me to say his name anyway, so that's all right. No, actually, that's an interesting part of my career also, because right about 1980, it could have been even 79, somewhere in there, I had a customer come in to buy some games, and I got to know him, and as he was leaving, he says, "Hey, you don't know anybody that wants to come and fix my games, do you?" And I said, "Well, I might." How about me?
Nice.
Yeah, so his name was Joe Fremont. And for years I called him Joe Fremont. I thought it was Fremont, but it's Joe Fremont. And he had the, every year he'd come in for the state fair, and he had the arcade down in the Midway, in the tent. And so he once he got to know me, he would call me every year and ask me to come out and get his games fixed and ready to go for the fair. So he'd come in on like Tuesday night. Fair opens on Thursday. Give me a call. "Joe, I'll be ready for you tomorrow. So come on out and fix my games." Well, he's got to run electricity to from basically their generators. They have to get the generator set up, and then he's got to tap the electricity off of that and get his electricity into the tent, and then he's got to set the whole tent up and be ready for me to come and look at these games for him. Well, I'd get there on Wednesday afternoon after I got done with work with Norman, and I'd work all through the night so that he could open on Thursday morning. And this went on for almost 30 years. Well, then he turned around, and that place that Todd Erickson was in, that Adam was referring to, was called the Penny Arcade. Well, Todd, through a few unfortunate circumstances, lost that deal, and Joe bought the building.
Okay.
From the fairgrounds. And so he was, instead of operating in a tent, he operated for a couple of years in the building. And then he sold to Chris. So Chris now owns that. And he owns all the machines in there, too, along with the photo booths. But you mentioned Todd Erickson. He bought almost whatever you don't see over there at the fairgrounds, Todd Erickson has at his place. Because he bought all the photo booths that Norman had.
Okay. And then how does Summit play into the local operator scene?
Well, Todd has been an operator since as long as I've been in the industry too, and then his son, can't remember.
Dan, do you remember his son's name?
Nick.
Nick, yeah. Nick's been pretty much running the business now, but Todd, he was the Ralph Nader of the industry. Well, every year we would have these conferences that we'd go to, usually in Chicago, because that's where all the manufacturers were. But we go to these big conferences, and they'd always have a tech conference, and Todd would be in there, and he would just be raising Cain. Why is it like this, and why isn't it like this, and why aren't you fixing this, and why aren't you? They didn't even want to see him walk in the door. It was funny, but
I have a short Todd story.
Sure.
I bought a Dig Dug from small town guy too, and I wanted to get a new marquee for it, and so I went on eBay and I found a marquee that was a little bit brighter color looking than mine, and I bought it, and it turned out it was Summit Amusement. And so I sent him an email and I said, any chance I can just pick this up? And he said, don't worry about it, I'll deliver it to you. And I said, okay. So I paid him. A couple weeks went by, had to call him. Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that. I'll stop by in a couple days. So he stops by, drops off the marquee, and proceeds to talk to me about his specialized process for the development materials that go into the photo booths and the development process. And really nice guy, but I mean, we sat in my driveway where I listened to him talk to me about chemicals for about 30 minutes before I was like, okay, I gotta go. So super nice guy, talker.
Yeah, you get Todd going, and everybody's looking and saying, "Who put a nickel in him?"
So, do you know of like warehouse spots around here that just might be full of games that we should go and check out?
Well, honestly, I'd have to say no.
Secret stash. That's how you can ask any one of us in the hobby where they get their games, and everybody clams up. It's like, I can't afford them right now, but I am not telling you where they are. Yeah. Am I right, Dan? Yeah. Am I right, Mark?
Yeah, basically that's the facts of the matter. But I can honestly say I've been out of it for 10 years. You know, I've been away from basically away from the business for 10 years. So any stashes that I saw are long dried up. They're long gone. I could tell you the name of one fella that bought all classics, and I don't think he's operating them anymore. But he had bought them to rent out as party things. Okay. And his name is Tom Cogan.
Everybody call him. Everybody call him right now.
Yeah.
Look him up. Google.
Yeah, and he's got 2 full warehouses that I know of classic games.
I wonder if those are.
I don't know where they are. He never did take me there. Whenever he wanted games fixed, he brought them to me. So.
The Ark of the Covenant is in there too,
and he did buy from me. So,
how do you, Joe? How do you feel about the resurgence of all these barcades and classic arcades reopening?
Oh, I think it's awesome. It's like walking into a time capsule whenever I come over to Adams.
Yeah, that's fun.
It's like, gee, I just got 30 years younger. You know, about 13 years ago, I got classified as an antique, so I'm right in there with right in there with those games now. So, and they're not antiques yet, but so yeah, it's I just. You know, my biggest thrill right now is going. You had asked me, or Adam had asked me a little bit about my home service. I just really enjoy going to these homes because they're all little arcades. Mm-hmm. I can
Isn't that true? That's so cool.
Yeah, I'll walk into a place and I'll see a machine that I haven't seen in years. I've worked on. Jukeboxes. That's my love is working on jukeboxes. Okay, I've worked on just about every model Seaberg that was ever made. Well, I shouldn't say ever because I haven't gotten back too many of them in the 40s prior
Mark, this is why you need a jukebox.
Yeah.
So you can have Joe come and fix it in Tucson, or I mean in Houston.
Oh.
Fly you in.
When you said Tucson, I thought, oh,
I don't know why I said Tucson. It was just like south. Tucson.
Yeah, there's a guy down there. I don't know how close to Tucson he is, but he has got a stash of Seabergs down there. I know. But
yeah, Mark is from Planet Houston.
Oh, Planet Houston. I was just in Houston the other day.
Oh.
Did you catch some of our good weather?
I don't know. I never left the airport. I was on my way to Nicaragua and then on my way back, but I was in Houston. I can say that.
We're the pit stop of the South.
The gateway to the Central.
The gateway to somewhere else.
Yeah. Awesome. How long have you been there?
I was born and raised here. I was in Minnesota for about 8 years and then came back last year.
Okay, so I can give you you remember when I was talking about Joe Fremont?
Yeah.
Yes.
San Antonio area, if that's not too far from you. I think
everything's far, but
okay, he's got a barn full of machines yet.
San Antonio is drivable though.
Mark's interested.
Yeah. How much of it is classic, I don't know, but he was big into the oddball stuff. You know, when you walked into his tent, you saw things like the love tester and the love chair and the you know, anything that was weird, he had it. You know, and then he also had the videos too, because they were making good money. But you know, whenever you walked down the Midway and you had to punch the punching bag, that was his.
Oh, wow.
You know, and I don't know how many times I worked on that thing, but he had me convert it to 50 cents because it filled up too fast at a quarter. It was just awesome. But yeah.
So speaking of money, how many times a week did you have to empty a Miss Pac-Man during the heyday?
Well, like I say, I didn't get involved in the collections.
Yeah.
I can tell you stories about watching the cart full of quarters move out of the counting office into the Loomis truck 3 times a week, and it was like you know, these warehouse carts they're flats, and the bags of quarters were filled that whole flat cart as high as they could get it without them falling off.
Oh my gosh.
And
you were devising your own Ocean's 11 plan to knock over the place and take all the money.
It's pretty hard to move quarters. A bag of quarters weighs about 70 pounds. So.
Yeah, and it's not subtle either. It's loud, and you can't like put them in your pocket or anything.
But that's how fast the money was coming in.
Wow.
I mean, it was amazing. It was short-lived. When it comes right down to it, it was short-lived. It was 4 years max, you know, for that kind of money.
Yeah.
You know, and really that's stretching it. Except for the arcades, of course. The arcades lived a little longer than that. But
so on a route today, like between your roller rink and the bowling alley, what's it, like a month before you have to collect? Or
I wish I could go every month. Yeah, it's not anything like that anymore. It's
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah. If I go every 6 weeks, I'm pushing it. It's only because he needs something fixed or something. You know, it's not. It doesn't really do anything but support a hobby.
Yeah, and you do it for. It's a hobby, really.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it's extra money if you want to do something, I suppose.
Well, I had, during that whole 10 years, I had dedicated that money to a good friend of mine who was a nun up in Brooklyn Center.
Oh.
And she helped the homeless, not only, it was mostly boys that were in trouble and could not get jobs because they were felons.
Oh, okay.
You know, and trying to get started again, and she was helping them in whatever way she could. So I funneled a lot of that money towards her.
That's a fantastic story. So maybe it's a good segue into we should all try to come up with a Christmas story related to arcades. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everybody, by the way. This is the Christmas special. That's why we're running long today. That's why we have Joe on, because he's a special guest. And I think, Joe, you said you had some sort of asteroids Christmas story?
Oh, yeah. That was a fun story. Norman had ordered, I believe there was 25 asteroids that came in on the truck, but he had ordered them well before Thanksgiving, and they were so backlogged on them. Those asteroids arrived at our back door 2 days before Christmas shut down. And Norman says, I don't care what you do. I want those out on the street before you go home.
Oh, no.
So we did it. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever met Nick Nelson. Nick Nelson was the guy that moved our machines around. And he went around 350. And he did everything himself. The only thing he needed help with was for you to guide him when he's moving this 750-pound pool table around, just so that he didn't hit anything else. and he'd always come to me, Joe, you want to guide me? And then he'd go, watch your step there, little buddy. Watch your step. Watch it. You know, if this thing starts to go, just jump out of the way and just let it go. But anyway, getting back to the asteroids, we get them all set up, ready to go, get them out on the street. Nick worked all the way through, moving these things out and putting them in place. And we all right, job well done. Okay, good deal. So we come back to work on Monday. This was it was a long break. It was like Christmas was on Friday, so we got off Thursday afternoon. Mm-hmm. Okay, we come back to work on Monday, and we had tons of service calls on for asteroids, and we're going, what's going on? These are brand spanking new machines. So the guys went out and did their service calls, and the only thing that was wrong with these things is you couldn't put another quarter in there. The cash boxes were so full that the quarters backed all the way up into the coin mix, and you literally couldn't put another coin in there.
Wow.
That is awesome.
And that's not a real small cash box, but it doesn't hold $500, but still. This is over Christmas. You had one day that everybody was down. Everything was closed. So literally in 2-3 days, max.
Wow. That's just nuts. And that was a double size coin box?
No, they didn't start making them bigger until Ms. Pac-Man came out.
Okay.
So that one probably held 250, maybe 300.
Okay. That's not a lot. That's...
I'm going to go get $300 for the quarters and fill up my asteroids and see what that's like.
yeah, see what it looks like. Well, it got to a point where I was hearing stories from the guys that were coming in and buying games that they were just, you know how the asteroids was set up, where it was kind of on a wood pedestal, and then the cash box was on kind of a wood pedestal.
Yeah.
Well, they'd break that pedestal out of there and just take the whole thing out of there and put a big, like a trash can or a bucket in there, so that they didn't have to go out there so often to clean it out.
Asteroids Deluxe, they must have had a bigger one than that one.
Well, they did, but they didn't need it for that one because that was a bomb.
Why does everybody want that game compared to the original? Just because it was a slight advancement, or
the asteroids they roll through the sky?
Oh,
yeah.
They didn't bounce off the sides or something.
Yeah, the shields. I like that.
Yeah, when you look at it in terms of, it was a better game, but for street use, it was too hard for the asteroid players. Okay, so they didn't want to go through that learning curve again.
Yeah. Well, plus, if it said asteroids, people have already played that, right?
Right. And they were moving on to bigger and better.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't that long after asteroids came out that that everything was in full color too. So who wanted it? And asteroids, by the way, was originally designed. They designed that game as a lunar lander.
Oh.
And early on, before they even released it, they decided that lunar lander was a flop, which it was.
Yeah,
it was a big flop.
It's a cool game though.
So if you look at the cabinet, that was kind of a reverse engineering type deal, where they made the asteroids work in the lunar lander cabinets because they had all these cabinets made already.
Oh,
it wasn't an original design for the. So.
What about you, Mark? You have any Christmas arcade stories you want to share? How about you, Dan?
I'm gonna have to pass. I don't think I do.
I already gave mine. I'm buying a mousetrap for my girl for Christmas. Jingle bells, jingle all the way.
Oh, I do have a Christmas story, but it's not going to take place on Christmas. We're going to go to Disney World and go to Disney Quest while it's still open.
Oh, they're closing it.
Well, they said they were going to close it, and then the deal with the NBA didn't go through. So I still want to get there because I have a feeling, they try once, they could try it again.
I've been there 3 times. The last time I was there was in 2011 or 2012. And they had totally gotten rid of the entire vintage level. There's like 2 rows of vintage games now, when they were over by the bumper cars or Tilt-A-Whirl or something. And but the thing that I did find interesting is they had like 14 Fix-It Felixes. So I played that game, and then I was done. I just kind of left. So that's awesome. You're going to Disney Quest.
Disney Quest. And they also have a thing where they have like 500 drones that fly at night and do a light show. And so.
Very cool.
But that's not very arcade related, but.
What about you, Dan? Anything Christmas related?
No.
Just be the Grinch. Be the Grinch. I'm going to burn some games on Christmas.
Yeah, I might.
Burn a time
I'm thinking about burning my Neo Geo in my garage, just gutting it and selling it, but don't tell anybody.
Not true. You like that
Very
game.
True.
Don't you like your Neo Geo? I thought you really liked that. We talked about it on the first show.
I stare at it and think, do I really want to restore this thing?
I thought you already had it running.
I do. I just have to restore it.
Okay.
I can't have an ugly game in my house.
Oh yeah. No.
Except my
ugly
Crystal
games.
Castles, which is ugly.
So, this is a fun side note. Yesterday in prep for the show, we had a meeting, and I introduced Mark. You'll appreciate this. I introduced Dan to Mark Elpigger's video about Crystal Castles.
That was disgusting.
Which is an outtake on King of Kong. If you get a chance to see the video, it's amazing. You really need to see it.
Paper. Pack.
I think I caught a little clip of that.
Crystal.
Yeah, he has this thing where he doesn't call the game the full name. He goes, I don't call it Crystal Castles. I call it Crystal.
Crystal.
I don't call it Donkey Kong. I call it Donkey.
We got 5 donkeys outside and 2 packs.
Well, I just wanted to say it's been great having you on the show.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yes.
This by far one of our finest guests to have on the show. You have a plethora of knowledge and an abundance of it. So we hope that you'll come back on the show and visit us. So thank you very much for being on the show, Joe.
Well, it was really fun. I always enjoy talking about the games and visiting with you, Adam. It's always fun.
We spent those 2 hours we spent last week were just fantastic. We just it's a learning experience every time you come over. So if anybody is looking for jukebox repair or arcade repair in the Twin Cities area, leisureman.com. Get his phone number. Joe is your guy. So again, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
This is a time where we have to plug the show, right, guys? It's RcadeRadio.com. That's RCADE radio.com. There's no A on the front of our arcade. We're double R's back to back. You can follow us on Twitter at Arcade Radio. At Twitter.
Wow, at Twitter.
Yeah, if you do at Twitter.
Nice handle.
It's a good one. Yeah, and if you want to send us an email or if you ever want to ask a question of the guest, call us on the game line, 612-548-GAME. That's 4263. Or the email is react@arcaderadio.com. You can also follow us on iTunes, Google Play, and SoundCloud. So subscribe and listen in. Everybody, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks. Thanks. Thanks for coming, listening.
You guys rock. I'm just going to wait here for 2 weeks.
Everybody's dancing now.
Yeah.
We're just getting our groove on.